Yes, we are back. We are back. Professor Melly Mel, the Hood Postman. You know the vibe. Be sure to click the notification bell, like, subscribe, and share. Drop a comment down below. So when the dope content hit, it'll feel like it's the first to 15. You know it. Shout out to the Mailroom Nation, the Mailroom Goons. Shout out, shout out. Let's get it to it. Let's get to it. We know
Yo,
we
Melly
got to
Mel, what's
the
up?
theme song. What's good?
From BX to
Oh
Cholo,
my God.
fam. It's your man. What's up? This is for the gangsters. Shout out to the gangsters. Postman posted with them gangsters. My homies be on gang time. All my homies throwing gang signs. I keep it real, I cannot fake mine. This is for the gangsters. Shout out to the gangsters. Postman posted with them gangsters. My homies be on gang time. All my homies throwing.
Shout out to the Brother. Can you hear me okay out there, bro?
Yeah, I got you.
Man, it's good to see you, man. I'm glad you're up, refreshed after having a long day. Now you're ready to go, man.
Right.
So I've been watching everything that's been going on, right, in social media, right,
Uh-huh.
and
Well, y'all see I'm here. I guess you can hear me. Can't hear the hood postman.
here we go. Here we go. Shout out to Mike Mark. Shout out to the Mailroom Nation. Shout out to Selena West. Shout out to everybody that's joined us on the chat. We decided to come in and do a chat because we've been getting a lot of stuff that's going on with Mr. Charlatan White. And I want to open up, right, because I think I really need to set this, put the context, put things in perspective and give it some context of where you can build on. Shout out to Miss Boney. How are you today? And I'll let you build from there. So what I like everybody to understand is Charlatan White, aka Charleston White, aka what is it called, Rat
Pat,
Jones or something,
Pat Williams?
Rat Williams. Okay, this guy that speaks in second and one and second and two thirds of people, second and third people. He got so many different characters that he liked to display. Let me understand this. When we first became aware of Charlatan White and who he was and his antics. It was by a guy named Abdullah Chappelle. Abdullah Chappelle is out of Fort Worth, Texas. He created a nonprofit called United Hoods of America. United Hoods of America was a program that catered to the children of Texas, Fort Worth, Dallas area. And he created a curriculum. He actually had a school. He had a lot of numbers of things going on. So he meets Charlatan White and he invites Charlatan to be a part of this program. And what happened, Abdullah Chappelle, he ran into some complications, legal situations. In other words, he was removed from the circumstance at the time and had to go away for a minute. And Charlatan White was able to step in and take over everything that the brother had built and call it his own. So he's in right now. He's a thief. He's a lot of different things. But what I want you to understand that Charlatan White is a person that speaks in nursery rhymes. He's a grown man that speaks in nursery rhymes. When he talks about nana nana boo boo and there's another one, yeah yeah yeah. That's a guy that's talking in terms of nursery rhymes. He lacked the tonality, phraseology, and impulse control. He reminds me of someone that is on medication, specifically Artane, Cogentin, or either Haldol. These are constructed abstract the periodontal symptoms caused by antipsychotic behavior. So we noticed that he goes back and forth, and as of lately, he's been a very, very lone individual. He stopped speaking about Murdeer. He stopped speaking about his wife. He stopped speaking about his family. Now you see him riding around in the car all by himself, just talking randomly, you know what I mean? And contradiction himself. He talks about F this, F that, F Stanley Tookie Williams, F Raymond Washington. So my my thing to him is that if that's what he truly believed, then he probably would serve him better if he would pull up on the individuals because mentioned the 60s, he mentioned the Bloods, he mentioned the Santana. I think that if he pulled up on these individuals and voice his opinion, I think that he'll get exactly whatever he's looking for. So with that being said, I also want to talk about, let's see. He talks about in Nursery Rhymes. He's in suspended animation. He lives in the metaverse. He's on the internet showing all these numerous of weapons, right? But what you fail to realize, and I want you to pay close attention to what I'm about to tell you. When he's speaking, notice the music he plays. Today he was playing Bad by LL Cool J, right? LL Cool J. He's really want to be known as a bad man, but we all know that he was picked on, he was bullied as a child. Um, he was never good at anything, whether it was pimping, whether it was selling drugs, whether it was fighting. He's never been great at anything. Long come Uncle Henny, which everybody called Unc, who was a millionaire that actually was behind Charlatan White and gave him the platform he originally started off with to be able to come on the internet and talk in the voice and the terms of which he was. He realized that he could talk in nursery rhymes. He can go na 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 boo boo and all this different stuff the way he talks, and he started gaining followers.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, you know what I mean? Because you got a grown man that's speaking in nursery rhymes. That should be warranted as something is going on. There's a cognitive behavior that maybe needs some therapy there. Like, because you're seeing him, he's talking about being in a car, he's all alone, and he's talking about individuals that's no longer here that can't harm him or do him any hurt. Okay? So why he talk about them, he also talk about Nipsey Hussle. He talk about Nipsey Hussle in terms of Aramis. He said he likes Aramis, but he hates Nipsey. F Nipsey. So what I like to say that names, usually people names are something to use to as identify individuals. It don't determine who you are first and foremost, unless the name that is given to you characteristically fit the behavior of the individual. That's why I call him Charlatan White. Everybody knows that he's full of lies and buffoonery. He's at an all-time high with buffoonery. So that's used, that fits. But as the names, now I'm known by many things, but I could think of 10 to 20 different adjectives to describe who I am as an individual as well as Bride Dog. We we definitely understand these things. So when you hear him talking in the way he talks every second word is F this, F that, did this, did that. So he's not really. It sounds like he's having a cognitive disconnect. He also talk about crabs and he talk about the Bloods. He was talking about the Crips really bad, right? I don't have a problem with him doing that. But what I do have a problem is when he start talking and then he goes back and start contradicting himself. Stick to the game plan, Charlatan White. If that's what you believe, then show be about that. Don't go back and then you give Baba Louie, King Baba Louie, all his big ups and all of it. Then you write in the same voice. You go back to Down in the Bloods, right in the same voice. So when you listen to the music, you listen LL Cool J, who played that I'm Bad. Then he played Michael Jackson, which me is projecting the songs, the music he played is projecting the hurt that he's endured and had to man up and go through life because when he started playing Michael Jackson, it represented the abuse in his life. When he played Jody Got Your Girl and Gone, that represents that somebody took his girl. So this pay close attention to the behavior and what's really coming from his mouth and look at him as somebody that really needs help. So I just want to provide the context. I would like to, because Bride Dog has actually went down to Texas and had a word or two with I don't know if he got a chance to actually sit down with him. I believe you did speak with him briefly, but then he dashed off. So without further ado, we like to bring Bride Dog. Shout out to Bride Dog and Urban Realness, the face of the world.
First thing I got to say is a handle never made the axe. The axe is going to always be the axe. So when you try to apply, like I'm Bride D, I'm Bride Dog, I'm Bones Loc, I'm Bry, I'm Eastside Bry, I'm Bry Loco, a variety of handles. But I'm the axe. Those are handles. I'm still the same axe. no matter what title I apply to myself or what name I apply to myself. So when he talks about Nip this and then he says Nip Gub name, you're still talking about the same acts, bruh. You can't differentiate between that. Now, as far as when I went down to Texas, like I said, it's an old story, but I'll just say it real quickly. I went down to Texas because he was disrespecting California. And by him disrespecting California, I said to myself, what if some young kid come out here with Texas Longhorn and he goes to the world-renowned Crenshaw and he wants to see the lowriders on a Sunday night? And after Charlatan White dissed the 60s so tough, what if a young 60, because I placed myself in a 15-year-old mind frame, will see a guy with the Texas Longhorn jerseys on, whatever, anything that's pertaining to Texas, say, where you from, man? I ain't from nowhere. Where you from, homie? I'm from Texas. Then I would have knocked his head off, the former me, the reactionary me, the juvenile me. And I would have went back to my homies and said, I got one.
And hold on, Bright Dog, I forgot to do this. Shout out to my Texas people, all my Texas people, Loco, and everybody in Texas, and every Mike Marks, and everybody, and all my family in Texas, because my family is from Texas. But go ahead, Bright Dog. I had to get that in, man. Let them know that we love Texas.
The evil out of Stop Six. I concur to Pumpkin out of neighborhood. I concur to Dewberry out of West Dallas, the 60s. I concur the same thing you said. Shout out to the Texas cats that I do know. So anyway, I call myself like, man, showing brothers from California that we can go to Texas and Texas dudes can come to California. This is just a character, obviously, but at that time I didn't realize he was such a buffoon speaking all this rhetoric. So when I get down to Texas, I hit the streets. I don't know nothing about Texas. I jam a young brother, who tells me he was a blood. They say they allegedly disciplined him for talking to me when he said the dude didn't represent them. He didn't represent Texas. I thought I was in Stop Six, but they said I was on the outskirts of Stop Six. I drove all around Texas doing my thing. So I subsequently went to this dude brother named Unc. He do a thing for the children. And I went there to check it out, right? And Charlatan White was supposed to show up there, but he didn't show up there. Then he put it to the universe that the founder of the Crips structure, Raymond Washington's daughter, had allegedly had me at the park waiting to assassinate him. So he didn't show up. But you woof all this here. But I got on the airplane with the firearm. I got off the airplane with the firearm in this day and time. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. And I went to a park, and I don't know nothing about Texas. And I had a firearm laying in the cut waiting to assassinate him in front of all the children. If that is not some fantasy island for y'all that's too young to remember, Fantasy Island was a show where you lived out your fantasies. That's a cold fantasy. First off, I came there to promote peace and nonviolence. So he went on, to say things like, does this probation officer knows he's out here? And so on, being himself, being, what he calls himself. He deems himself a snitch. And my probation officer knew I was out there and gave me permission to go out there. So that's the gist of it. But when he sits up here and he woofs like, come out here, where you at? So I was out there. All 11 inches of my arm. I'm an 11-inch arm man. Technically, I'm legally blind on my left eye because I got shot right here. You know what I mean? So that would have been a good matchup. Then I'm older than him. 11-inch arm. I know he got about 11. One eye. We could have did the damn thing. And I would have beat the brakes off of him if he would have showed up. I would have slapped him in the next year. That was my intent. Because I often say, I don't care how big a man is. When you slap the crap out of a man, he can beat the brakes off you. But all everybody gonna remember is, man, he slapped a mess out of dude. And that's exactly what he had coming. So he's a coward. He sells wolf tickets. And then he has such a distaste for the Crips structure, which I say, the legacy I left in the streets is a senseless legacy because it holds no value to me. It's a senseless legacy, but it defines to a large portion of everything that I manifested into and what I was able to shape. But he hates Crips so viciously because, as you said, he was a failure at cripping. He was a failure at pimping. He was a failure at selling drugs. He was a failure at trying to be a street hustler. The only thing he succeeded in doing is being a buffoon on the internet, which you don't hate the player, hate the game. Yet he has a crisscross message. He stole everything that was pertaining to the nonprofits from Abdullah. He stole everything, made it his own. He's a coward. He talks about, it is a gang structure. He puts allegations out there that is fallacies that we're into raping women. I hate a rapist. I'll peel a rapist cap in a hot pour quicker than you could blink, quicker than the New York second, or what they call a New York minute. I will flip a rapist from here to tomorrow and gladly go walk a life sentence in prison behind a rapist. So I don't know where he got that in our structure that it's cool to rape women. He said he would rape children. He would rape women. He says he was for the children, but he calls every little boy a little ninja that's going to grow up and go to prison. F the little ninjas. So we don't know where he's coming from. Now he has all these characteristic voices that as if he's, acting out all these fantasies in his head. He's running around with firearms, which is open carry state, but I still don't understand how he got a license to carry a firearm unless he worked for them people, because he did get tried as an adult and he did do his time as an adult. So shouldn't that be an adult record? I'm just speculating. That's not telling on him or nothing like that of that nature. That's just asking a question.
So, quick question: isn't there something in place that shows people that have a diminished cognitive spirit, right? Or they showing some showing some signs of they're able to think past yesterday, right? Is
Yeah,
is there something on the books where they supposed to be taking these arms from these type of individuals? Because let's be honest, any individual that's on the internet that's showing his arson is not going to use it, because most of the individuals, you look at the ones that's been doing all these random shootings, you didn't know about them until they did what they did.
precisely. And I was saying, man, with the exception of two dudes that I've met in my life named Killer. Literally everybody I met named Killer is not a killer. I don't understand why they call him Killer, And both of them from Hoover that I know by that title, Killer, and they actually were killers, or so they say, allegations, but strong allegations. And then when I used to meet guys, no disrespect to Crips or Bloods, but when I used to meet guys named BK and CK, yeah, right, okay, get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean, man? Come on, knock it off, man. How many BKs and CKs we really see? Knock it off. I used to
So,
clown.
so
So
what
we,
about a grown man that speaks in nursery rhymes and na 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 boo boo yeah yeah yeah? What's your thoughts on that?
I
For
think
him to be a grown man,
it's a
he's
mommy.
speaking in nursery
I
rhymes.
think it's a mommy issue. I think it's a daddy issue and a mommy issue. I think he reverts back to the mind frame of a child because he needs to nurture him from his mother because he didn't have a father. And I think it comes back to wanting to run to mommy when that preacher was, dude said to him, plain and simple, that preacher went up in you. And you still go to that church and that preacher got out, and he didn't respond to that guy. And that guy became with a lot of rhetoric, but he did not respond to that. He shut down and got off the line when that guy said, "Hey man, is that preacher out? The one that was running up in you?"
Hmm.
And he didn't respond to that. So I think he
So,
has.
and that's why I made a statement that if you listen to the music he's playing and in terms of way he's speaking, he's projecting. He's projecting what's going on, what's happening with him, and what's occurred in his life. You know what I mean? Because obviously he started playing "Jody Got Your Girl Gone." What is that all about? That wasn't so random, because he made the statement himself. He been riding around with the same clothes on for 2 days, or he had the same shirt on. You know what I mean? And he's always by himself. He's always alone now. You never see him with anybody. And yeah, he's very into nursery rhymes. And he's a grown man. And there's no children around him. There's no women around him. He don't talk about mud deer anymore. He don't talk about his wife. I don't know if he have any kids. I don't know that part, but I just know there's something going on with that brother that maybe that little howl doll will take care of. That it is to treat
Yeah,
that mental illness. That maybe it'll help him get back on track. Because obviously there's some severe mood swings there, because all this stuff. And again, he talked so good about Baba Louie, and then in the same breath, not 2 minutes after he talked about Baba Louie in a good way, he starts slandering the Bloods. After he's saying this is about the Crips, I'm just
right.
trying to figure where is he going with all this. Like again, the internet, the metaverse,
Yeah,
right? The suspended animation. You can be anything you want on the internet, but try putting that into a physical form. Try, if you really mean what you're saying, you can pull up to anywhere in the 60s on the Bloods or Artist Santana's, anywhere. Pull up on and them individuals and just tell them how you feel and then see how that worked for you.
yeah. I mean,
You
because
know,
you have to look at it like this, man. Okay, we know what a wolf ticket is. For the rest of the nation, we don't know what a wolf ticket is. A wolf ticket is you faking. You faking the funk. But the thing that I look at him as, this is when I'm starting to come to the conclusion. We're of everything that he aspired to be in that life that we no longer subscribe to. He wanted so desperately to have the accolades placed upon him from the streets, because we all know that's like rock star status when you're one of those guys, the higher echelon of the streets. You know how it go, and especially when you're in those circles, it's like, wow, you're not with the entourage, but you're actually in the circles. Everyone is like, yeah, that's such and such, that's such and such, and he wanted that desperately. And when it didn't work for him, he's the little boy that took all his toys and broke them because he didn't want nobody else to play with him. Knowing that mommy would go buy him some more and he could put him in his bedroom by himself and play with him. So not only that, I think that the guy, man, I think he's been tampered with when he was locked up, because not taking nothing from no geographics, but they get down like that. A lot of geographics too. So we're not going to, like, I'm pointing the finger at anyone. But I think the boy was tampered with, as a young boy when he went into the system. And then you sitting up, you showing these firearms. Well, let's tell the truth. What was it, 5 or 6 of you on the case, and they killed the guy over a starter jacket, so they was going to wear it. He just take a day of the week, as the man said. You didn't kill nothing. You had an accidental murder. You were accidentally there. You were accidentally running with the wrong crowd, and you accidentally went to jail for it. That's what happened. You had an accidental murder. You had one of those, dropped the gun and it went off and ricocheted off the wall and went through somebody else's wall and hit somebody in the bedroom. You had one of those kind of murders. So the dude, you sit up here to the world like, I've killed this, I killed that, and you'll kill white women and all this. You bring the racial thing in there because you have some kind of problem. You think that Europeans are an authoritative figure over us. So in your mind, you trapped. You paralyzed psychologically in another era.
Is he a prisoner of his own mind?
That's basically what he is, man. He's a prisoner of his own mind. He's like Sybil. For those who don't know what Sybil got 16 personalities. She was a documented woman with 16 personalities. And he has feministic characteristics, man. I think he would have been more comfortable in a skirt and some pumps, as opposed to trying to be a tough guy with a firearm. Because you don't see people exposing firearms and threatening people. He doesn't realize what he's doing is a terrorist threat. When you tell people that you're going to kill them if they push up, he doesn't realize that. And he doesn't realize that he's affected interstate commerce because this transverse state lines. This social media does. So see, he's gotten so comfortable in thinking, and he called a bunch of names that he allegedly snitched on. I don't know if they're fictitious or true or what, but he says, I'm the world's greatest snitch. I've been snitching for 25 years. So you're saying you've been snitching, you have a firearm, you're threatening people's lives. You got to be working for them people, man. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. With the things that you say on the internet. And there's nothing he could say about me. He's tried everything in the book. He's even put allegations that I engaged in what I deem abnormal behavior. Because he's under assumption anyone that's did any lengthy prison terms have engaged in that. So it makes me wonder, did you engage in it? Because you did a lengthy term. Is that the pot calling the kettle black?
Like, I think that if there's anybody that can get him to a health specialist, there's the Texas Department of Mental Health. I think that they would be doing a great service if they get him down there, because I've seen people that was on that had these kind of problems, and it usually wind up on Artane and Cogitin, because it helped counteract that extra pyramidal symptoms caused by the antipsychotic type of drugs that maybe he's digest some things that he shouldn't have digest, and he became impaired, and now he's talking in the second and third person, and he's talking about he's referring to individuals like Monster Cody and also Tookie Williams and all these, and Raymond Washington. These people, rest in peace, been long gone. Monster Cody just recently, but most of the people that he's referred to has been passed away for many years. There's nothing he can say that can change those outcomes or even make anybody feel any type of way, because whatever their life was that. You know what I mean? There's nothing we can do to change it, correct it, fix it, or none of that. All we can do is as us as men moving forward is conduct ourselves as upstanding and righteous black men and continue to fix the problems that prey on our communities. You know what I mean? We know that whether it's Damu, Kiwe, GD, that we have issues in those communities and with those tribes. And what we would like to do is provide the substance and also give the curriculum to where these people can have something to hold on. Because I understand you can't take something away without having something to put something in place. So
Mhm.
you know what I mean. There's a lot of things we have to get out here and do the work. You know what I mean. And we can't do it with distractions like a charlatan white or a person that is just you know creating a clown show. You know what I mean. He reminds me of I don't know if y'all remember Chuckles and Bozo's Big Top and stuff like that. You know what I mean? He definitely reminds me of that type of stuff. It's a sideshow, you know?
Yeah, he's what's the guy name? Krusty the Clown, Sideshow Bob from The Simpsons.
Yeah,
You know, because you sit up in your backyard, you do all this dancing, this crazy, if that's your backyard, and you always brag about how much money you have, where you live at, how everyone's broke. I don't know if you have this money. I can care less because I'm not counting another man's pocket. But you're always throwing out how all of us are always broke. We
What
know
is
nothing.
money? What is money if you always alone?
Yeah,
You
he's
have
all.
nobody that you can enjoy it with. If you always looking, you driving, you watching every intersection, you hiding in plain sight. True enough, but I don't know. I don't know how he get past Asiatic Supreme. What's up, bro?
Yeah, and it's like the things that I don't know the brother Percy, but I do remember seeing clips of when unfortunately the dude lost his brother, unfortunately, and it really crushed him because obviously he was pretty tight with his brother. Okay, I've lost a brother. You say something negative about my brother, when I get within reach, I defend the honor of my brother and what I deem is honorable about my brother. It doesn't matter what the rest of society deems is honorable. It's what I deem honorable. And so you slander and you try to slander all these figures that hold significance to a lot of cats, you
That's
know,
true, fam West. What
and when you start slandering these dudes, you're going to eventually sow what you reap. I don't wish nothing ill on you, but it's going to be a reckoning. It's
he
going to be,
Yeah, he's a component of what kabuki theater is. You know, if anybody knew the term kabuki theater, you know what I mean. That's just when you think about it in the sense of how he expressed himself and how he degrade the community. You know, he's always speaking in degradation and hurt. You know, because he's hurt.
yeah.
Hurt people. You know what I mean. So I get that, but we got to get him a mental health specialist or somebody in Texas needs to refer him to the Texas Department of Mental Health Services. He's in bad need, you know. Mike Marks out there, and and I know there's a lot of people out there like his boy. What's his boy name? Dewberry.
Yeah.
Dewberry should be the first one, since he was actually in his circle. But I don't even see him with Dewberry.
No, and
I
then
see him talk about it, but he's never with these individuals.
see, then another thing with a man is the dude couldn't find the substance he wanted in the Trump world. He thought that was going to work. It didn't work. He couldn't find the substance he wanted with the Europeans, period, or their descendants, because they said, we don't need another step and fetch it. We already got enough of them in place all across the nation. So he couldn't do it. So he tried to all in, well, let me show you how much I can tear my own people down. And they was like, but you're tearing your people down, but to what purpose and to what end? Because the people you're tearing down are no longer here to defend themselves.
Both Harriet Tubman and Nat Turner spoke about these individuals long ago. There was going to be some people that's going to go, and there was going to be some people we're going to have to do something to them
Yeah,
because they're not going to be willing to go. They're going to be the ones that's going to point the finger. They're going to be the ones that tell on us. They're going to be the ones that be part of the meritorious maledictions, the 1910 law, was called meritorious maledictions, where you snitch, manufacture, or create something for white folks to to make money, or you point fingers at other black people that you feel that was going to do something to white property or white wealth. So Charlatan White is definitely one of those individuals is the Act of 1710. So what else you got to add about this? Willie Lynch is in the full effect, and yeah, it is. It's definitely touching
He,
the tip. Yeah.
he's Steve, he's Steven, the character Steven from Django. He's Steven from Django.
No. Right.
And the thing I had to add about it is like, you saying everybody, come find you is once again, I reiterate what you said. You know where we at. I'm outside as the saying goes. I'm everywhere. You ain't nowhere. You say you already ran through California. Yeah, it's easy to get off a plane and go to the studio.
I believe he's Uncle Ruckus' daddy. He ain't Uncle. He's worse than Uncle Ruckus.
He the producer of Uncle Ruckus.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what I had to say about him in a nutshell, man, is unfortunately, bro, it's gonna be a day of reckoning with you. Even though a guy got fired on backstage recently somewhere, it was just a point of it showed the true colors. You got fired on and you ran. When your day of reckoning come, I wonder how you gonna react. I really wonder how you gonna react.
So there's a couple of other issues I want to touch on too, Brian. That's been coming up in the news feed. It's the thing. Well, shout out to Local Vision, by the way. That's been coming up in the feed about YG and Tigger. The video they did was called I can't remember the name of it. Somebody in the chat tell me what the name was. Yeah, Distorted, definitely. And they were seen to be a little disappointed in the video because of the mariachi suits and the fat and men in fat suits, and then you had these beautiful Latinas standing around. But what I'm seeing at is that one of the worst songs that they produced they sell is uh, 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 arms up, side to side. I lean back like a cholo. You know what I mean? That was probably one of the worst songs they made about their own selves. You know what I mean? So when you hey camarada, camarada.
But you can't leave out I was born in East LA.
Yeah. So what I would like to say is, how do you take "Don't Cry Now," "Tears of a Clown," "Smile Now, Smile Later," which all came from soul music, right? All the different things, all the different sayings that they use, in other words, they hate us, but they love our culture. How do you, as a people, and I'm not saying there's only a percentage of people that speak in the terms of how they do. You know what I mean? I've seen this guy, what he's called, American Cholo or Cholo. How do he justify his actions when a lot of times that if he's got an issue, he probably needs to take up his issue with his own women, because there seem to be running to these rappers and being with them, going down there to get the BBLs. They're going to Miami, to DR, to Mexico, because they want to attract a certain type of guy. And they know that black men preference is girls with big butts. And that's just the way they are, right? That's just how they flow. So, but they like the skinny girls with the top with the iron board backside at 6 o'clock. That's their thing. I ain't got nothing wrong with that, but seem like there's good percentage of their women have started taking on personality personas of looking like sisters.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I was out and about today, and I noticed, that I'm like, wow, these chicks got me turning my head, looking at their backsides, and they're not sisters, right? But I'm just admiring the beauty of a woman, not in pursuit of them. And the thing is, I have 2 children with a Latina, so I don't. So we're gonna get this off the top. I don't have any distaste or dislike for the raza, for the Mexicans, for the Latino community, Latina community.
We grew up with them.
We grew up with them. Okay. What I have a distaste for is that 300 men dictate to 50,000 foot soldiers to hate us when we've never done nothing to them. What I have a distaste for is when certain parts of Compton, you know, and it's one of the homies, you know, who hasn't been on hands in the streets in our culture, on our side of Southern California, who doesn't realize that if you go to East LA after 10 o'clock, or you go to La Puente, or you go to Azusa after 10 o'clock, or you go to El Monte after 10 o'clock, or you go to Southside Pasadena after 10 o'clock, or you go to Duarte Trece after 10 o'clock, you will no longer be in this world as we know it. If you go to the Harbor Gate area, or if you go to Wilmington after 10 o'clock, you will no longer be in this world as we know it. So they don't understand that the unholy alliance between them and those Europeans that started from prison and filtered its way down into the streets is real in the field. And it used to be a club in Palmdale called 10th Street West, where all the Latina chicks would go, and the brothers would go, brothers of caliber men such as my former self and what have not. And we always would score Latina. Because the Latino, the dudes, the 2% of society, which is the same as us, you know, the criminal element, the gang members, they didn't go there because they knew it was a bunch of brothers in there that was Crips and Dahoodpostman. And so we'd all knock their girl.
What I understood growing up in the 60s and 70s was something called the Brown Beret. And at this time,
Yeah.
our Latin brothers and sisters were referring to each other as Chicanos.
Yes.
Somewhere along the line, when the word Hispanic got put in place, there was a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they was cool in the fan. And I'm telling you, man, you get with one-on-one, man, they some of the coolest people in the world. But the moment you get around and they get numbers, they change up. They can't be themselves. They can't relate to you the way they would normally relate to you. Now it's under pressure. It's under a watchful eye or somebody, when that whole structure of the MA itself is ran by a bunch of dopings.
Because every Hispanic dude, well, I'll put it to you like this: 8 out of 10 Southern California Mexican gang members that are 52 and above are heroin addicts. That's a fact. Okay. Then secondly, you know, I looked at the new kids that are rapping, the new Serranos, the new Southerners, Southsiders, whatever you want to call them, and they use the N-word. I don't even use the N-word. They use that joker like it's the thing to do when they rap songs. And then they called themselves that. You know, I was locked up with a bunch of cats from 38th Street. And before I turned my head and looked and saw who it was, they used that N-word like the average brother from the streets uses it. And I was like, wow.
Right. It was an unholy alliance. They had that in the Vegas prison to symbolize the relationship between Hitler and Mussolini.
Precisely. We can do that because Mussolini comes from what? Latin? Comes Italian dialect, right? Comes from Spanish dialect. So yes, Mussolini. Then the personification of allegedly the Aryan race, Hitler. You know, so it's an unholy alliance and it filtered to the streets. But wait a minute. You used to wear size 48 pants when you were size 32 in the waist. Now you sagging. Okay?
Well, there was a period of time where they pulled their pants up around their navel with double pleats.
Yeah, right
you
here.
Know? So
Right.
So when did that become? Now their persona is now saggy and khakis, you know. So when did this switch, or did you notice the switch?
I noticed the switch when I started seeing an influx of them coming into federal prison system, and I thought they were perhaps from Texas or elsewhere because they emulate us, you know. There's such a unification because these guys still grow up with each other in different parts of the nation. But when I started like, where you from, man? LA. And I started reading the tattoos on them, like, what? And like, they sag? You know, it's the same thing with the low riding thing. A white boy was the first person to put hydraulics in a vehicle. But let's not get it twisted. You know, on Crippin and Damu thing in Southern California, pigeons, pit bulls, for those old enough to remember, Oscar Fish and low ride. Coming up, I seen Chevys on Quakers all the time in the black community. And when the Crippin thing really started, brothers had Quakers on with their 8-tracks. They had the low pressure dumps that they used to steal off the back of U-Hauls. They front and back. The Majestics were started because of what? A certain individual whose name I ain't gonna put out there from the town was taking all their cars. And they came and tapped out like, look, man, Why don't I just start a Compton chapter of the Majestics, which is a predominantly black chapter? Shout out to Gangster, who's the president of it now, but I'm just saying. So you come around, and my first bid, unfortunately, when I did a lengthy sentence in prison, all I seen was the agony and ecstasy. Smokey Robinson, the miracles. All I seen, if this world was mine. All I seen was I always loved my mama, tattooed on them. Before brothers start getting all these tattoos, they'd have these tattoos blasted on their necks, across their chests, on their arms. They always had some type of Motown sound on them. So you hate us, but you love everything about us. I don't understand that. But we've taken from them Loke, which is a modified version of local. Crips like they, we Lokes. Yeah, we took that from you. Okay.
Don't get us wrong. We're not bashing because there's a large percentage of our Hispanic brothers and sisters totally understand what we're saying and why we're saying what we're saying is that you letting a few dudes at the top that sit around in these dungeons shooting heroin all day control your thought and your thinking and how how you get along and relate to other people that's in that same culture that has that same dynamic that come from them same areas and them same alleys and parks and byways that you come from, but yet you let the Aryan nation put their propaganda into your movement, and now what's up, Jane? And now it has affected you as a whole, as a people. You don't know how to be normal anymore. Or
if anybody's familiar with Star Trek, the cyborg was the collective. They all thought in the same pattern. They all had these little screws in their head, and they didn't have no individuality. Everything was for the collective. And this is what they are. They're cyborgs. And when you really look at it, Melly Mel, it's sad that you have a black family moving what's known as County Video 155 neighborhood, woman and her children, and they bombard her home with all kinds of fire bombs and things like this to make her move out of that one particular area in Compton. It's sad when, as a black man in Compton, I see on the walls CK for Crip Killer, BK for Blood Killer, PK for Pyru Killer, then NK for that filthy word killer, for the N-word killer. And you see then on that County Video T flats, or you see County Video Sententas, County Video 70s. But here it is, you dudes are living in the same state of being that we are in the city of Compton. Yet you have the audacity to write NK on the wall. And then you sit up and you try to say certain things like, well, one time, you guys bum rushed certain the guys that came from across the borders. Well, you guys called them W backs all day long and was always robbing them. I never called them a W back, but you guys.
One thing to know about them, though, they respect their leadership. That's for sure. One thing you can't take from them, they respect their leadership regardless. Because I remember when I was living in Linwood and I was, doing my thing, and the young crowds was right there. And then one day I'll go up to the 7-Eleven right there on Martin Luther King and Atlantic, and I'm coming out, and a few of them hit me up. Where you from? And one of them said, "Man, that dude from Nappy Head, which that means neighborhood or whatever." And I said, "No, I'm not from over there, bro. I'm sorry. Pardon me." And the dude tried to step in my way, but over my shoulder I could see this guy standing to the side, and me and him locked eyes, and he looked at me. And he said, "Man," and he pushed past him and came right up to me and embraced me. It was Smokey. Smokey was like the god over there. You know what I mean? The young crowd. Smokey is now on death row. Shout out to Smokey. You know what I mean? He's always I'm gonna look at him as a friend and somebody that had a lot of power in that structure. And unfortunately, he got into some type of situation with the sheriffs. And they lost that day against Smokey and Indio. But anyway, Smokey came up and, man, once Smokey embraced me, man, them dudes, man, they rolled out. Every time they would see me, they rolled out the red carpet. And I, and you got to respect that about them. At the same time as there's some things that you don't like, but when they leadership say something, that stands.
Well, yeah, I had the same type of situation when I used to be in Hollywood doing my thing, and it was Model Salvatruchas out there, and they had a Model Salvatrucha named Perico, and Perico was my man. And Rico tried to even get me to go to one of their meetings. I said, man, I'm not going to there, man. You know, it's about 250 of these cats, man. You know, I'm like, they was having a meet. He like, no, you cool. I want you to know our people. I'm like, no, I'm cool on you saying I'm cool, and that's cool enough for me. You know, because I was thinking of a 1932 Mississippi Ku Klux Klan meeting where I'd be the only brother there, you know. So, but Perico had juice, you know, and so I get what you're saying on that. But just for the most part, I just look at it like this, man. You know, we've never, at least in my tenure as a member, went on the hunt for civilians as they've done. There's so many of them in the feds with hate crimes just on shooting innocent brothers. You know, just for shooting innocent sisters. Look at the 204th Streets. Look what they were doing in the Harbor Gateway. Anything that was a person of color, they were gunning them down. So see, this is the ludicrousy of it. The same thing that'll make you laugh and make you cry to me is that you target civilians, and then you say you don't, you try to rescind this every time, but you say, you know, it's not considered snitching when you get on the stand against a brother that's affiliated. Stop lying when you say that
Right.
it's because you done it to my homeboy Drew Dog.
So, quick question, Brian. How much time do you say you got behind the wall and in the stoops altogether? How much time you say?
30-something years.
30-something years. In your 30-something years, from your vantage point, from your view and things that you saw, observable reality, how important was it for the AB and the MA to have the administration 100% in their corner?
Extremely important.
Explain.
Well, you got to bear in mind, I came to prison in the early 80s. And it was still the era of the good old boys club. Just like when you got to Folsom, they say you're not in CDC, you're in Folsom. And the people that greeted you did not look anything like you. So
Hold on, let me say something. Hold on. Get them, Jane. Hey, Jane, listen, we don't condone anybody attack anybody. Anybody that attack a street vendor or a person that's trying to get their money, we do not do not condone. Those people are idiot, and
yeah,
they're like they're not into the overall community. Those people though, they're disrespectful. We're not trying to disrespect you guys or anything like that. We just pointing out some things that come to our attention. But go ahead, Brian.
yeah. So by the administration still retaining the residue of an overly hate George Jackson era, hate you blacks, we're bulls, we'll crack your heads, when they could no longer do that because of all the struggle that the Solidarity Brothers made for brothers to have it their way to a certain degree in the even playing field, they start utilizing the ABs and they start utilizing those cats, those Emmys, to get at brothers. Case in point, they had a thing called Emergency Housing Unit in Folsom. When you left Emergency Housing Unit and went to your assigned government assigned quarters, state assigned quarters, your cell for those who don't know what I'm talking about. Guess who was the housing clerk? A Southern California gang member Mexican. So when you got there, you was already hit. And staff knew he was doing what he was doing. But they allowed it to go. Because the biggest threat was the influx of Crips initially coming into the system. Because you had a bunch of renegades that were just coming in there buck wild. And so staff didn't know how to contain it. So anytime you have 5 or 6 blacks in a group, it became on them. But you could have 30 of them guys. So they literally, man, advocated. It was an episode when I was in Ironwood where a guy had just put a fresh CK on his arm, a Southern California Hispanic gang member. So the 2 young homies in the kitchen stomped him damn near to death. So what the staff did was instead of taking the homies out or taking the guy through the back door of the kitchen, they took the Hispanic out on a gurney so he could tell his people. But they didn't take the homies out, so the blacks didn't know. So at the next unlock, every Hispanic came out of every building and bum rushed all the blacks on the yard. So did staff contribute to that? Of course they did. They knew what they were doing. So they started using those guys not as pawns, but as they go-tos to get at brothers. Because the lingering hatred for brothers on the strides that the Solidarity 7 made. Or the Solidarity Brothers made. So, you know, yeah, they use them. And in my tenure, I was in the hole.
No, we're not trying to put you in the car with Southsiders, Jane. We're not. We right. We are. Let us be specific. We're talking about Southsiders and Emmy. We're not talking about the Rasa or the specifically Spanish people. You guys really are Native Americans You
And
just don't realize it because you allowed the Spaniards to conquer you and interject their culture into yours, and you lost your Aztec, and
my
your
bad,
Mayan and your
Inca.
Mayan heritage, which is your true natives. There was no such thing before the 1500s as a Mexican.
At
There was
all.
no such thing. So if you go back, you can read that for yourself. I'm not attacking you guys. I think you guys have some beautiful people over there that actually do some wonderful things, and I'm just there's some things. Other words, I'm attacking the thought that led to MA interjecting their politics into the guys that was coming into prison and poisoning their minds based on white supremacy. Because Joe Morgan was a guy from Croatia and he was at one of the top leadership of the MA. So he was able to, he had a real rapport and a tight line with the AB, and they was able to insert their ideology into that thought. You know what I'm saying? So we're not talking about, the people, the civilians or whatever. We know that there's some black people that do some wrong stuff to the Mexican people as well. We're not, and those people should be held accountable if that's what they're out there doing. And I'm not, you know what I mean? I understand where you're coming from. Don't think we piling up on you or anything like that. I'm welcome you being in the chat and having your say. Okay?
Now,
Appreciate you. Go
let
ahead,
me
bro.
off of whoever that is ears again. I have two wonderfully handsome, professional, extremely proud of sons that I share with the Latina. And I love them to death. There's no splitting my sons in half and say, I hate this side of you and I love this side. There's no distaste in my mouth towards the Mexican culture or the Mexican race. The distaste comes in my mouth to the Southern California gang member and the ideology that he is forced to embrace based on a handful of men that are never coming home that want to live to shoot heroin. That's where my distaste come from. It's nothing against the Mexican culture. I think that the Mexican culture, which is the newest culture of people in the entire world, I think they have a beautiful culture that they manifested into their own, that they took from the Castilian and they took from the Spaniard from Western Europe and made it their own. With the dominant part of their gene pool coming from the indigenous people of the North American continent. So no, it's nothing like that to that individual. What I'm saying, where my distaste comes at, is when you have these cats that emulate us, these cats that want to be like us, that hate us.
Thank you, Lakeisha.
you know, and it's cats that we've never done nothing to. We didn't initiate a war with these guys in the penal system. We didn't make it a black thing against a brown thing in the penal system. We didn't do none of that. So in my
Right
tenure
on,
of
Jack.
being locked up, I witnessed this. See, I've been stabbed twice by La Raza. I've been shot by La Raza.
But
So,
I think they use that La Raza as a cover up, because they want to include people that don't have that same thought. So I would just say, bro, that it was the MA or the Southsiders, but
and that's
they
exactly,
say La Raza to make it bigger than what it really is. You understand? They use that as like cloak and dagger to
yeah,
hide behind. You know what I mean? So to pull people in that would not normally or necessarily be
yeah.
with that type of ideology.
Because I hate to say this truth, and a lot of people are going to get angry when I say this. A lot of people, if it wasn't for that influx of young Crips at the ages of 17 and 18 that came into the system between 1981 and 1985, that were tried as adults and that were between 17 and 19 years of age, blacks wouldn't be walking the main line in our prisons. And then the Damus came on board in the mid 80s, because that's when we formed a loosely alliance, because that's when the Southern California Hispanic gang member made it a racial thing, as opposed to where when I first went to prison, it could be the Norteños got into it with the Central California blacks. That's between them. The Southsiders got into it with the BGFs. That's between them. We had nothing to do with that. That was prison gangs going at it with prison
That's
gangs.
what I was explaining to him, Jack. Rasa is a proud word of our people before any kind of gang. That's what it is, bro. I appreciate you saying that.
Is it what?
I'm just telling you, Rasa is a proud word people
Yeah,
before any type of gang. It is, and like I was explaining to you, Brian, that the Serenos and the inmate would use that word to bring their numbers in and make them look bigger than what it is. You know what I'm saying? There was a lieutenant and Marcellus. I was talking to Marcellus Robinson. You know, he talked about this lieutenant and told him, man, we got to make them. We got to make because it take five of them to handle one of y'all.
yeah.
We got to make their numbers bigger than y'all. We got to make y'all lean on the yard because y'all so big and so strong. And this was some of the problems they were having. And so what happened is that the administration and the people that run Department of California Corrections, they purposely made those prisons uneven the way they did. You know what I'm saying? And put brothers at deputy because they felt like brothers was too powerful, too strong, and you know what I mean? Because where it is, you have at least 10 to 15, 20 brothers hitting 500 benches on the yard, and you might have maybe one or two Hispanics, even if that at that. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm telling you, we have way more muscle mass and tissue, and we have more athleticism and abilities than a lot of other people. You know what I mean? That's just something we were gifted with. You know what I mean?
But it's I've often spoke on when I said the brother Sid Rock from Lewis Park and the brother Chief from Ohio. There were 11 blacks in the 100-man dorm. There were 69 Hispanics, with over 40 of them Southsiders in the dorm, and then the rest was white. So do the math. That's 80 right there between the blacks and Hispanics. 69 and 11 is 80, right? And then there were 20 whites, and we got into it. So if that wasn't an even playing field, what was? You think what I'm saying? So yes, inside the stoops, and then when everybody looks at the truest depiction of the day in the Southern California black gang members' life was the movie Minister Society. When they dropped Kane and I think Old Dog off or Kane and his cousin, somebody,
Good, Miss Lakeisha.
they dropped them off in the Hispanic neighborhood, but that says like we're not gonna do the police dirty work. But this is a
You know,
fact where the police used to drop brothers off in their neighborhoods.
yes. What's interesting, man, though, you know what I mean? I grew up with Dope Puncho, Cochise, Kung Fu, Jab. And then I also grew up with Juju. With Juju was from Santana. Then the Twins and White Boy and Relo and all those cats, you know what I mean? And then
Yeah,
there was Leonard and Rab. And, and there's a lot, we got a lot of homies that claim Santana, like the homie, damn, I can't think his name, man, but he a good dude. Stay on Poppy Street, man. My partner, you know what I mean? Paint your car, fix your car, do anything for you, man. And man, it just, man, sometimes it just amazes me sometimes how some of these people, man, they react when they can be so helpful for you on the streets, but then harmful to you in the pen.
yeah. And the cold thing is, and I'm not shooting no lugs at no other county because this ride is about that county. But
Throw back to my comments. Awesome topic. Thankful for your announcing me.
it's a different ball game in another county in Los Angeles County when it comes to the way we grew up with them guys. See, our generation, we grew up hand in hand with them, lusting over their sisters who they wouldn't let us mess with. We had to creep with their sisters and sitting up kicking it on the corners with them. I remember we used to go downtown. One guy that sticks out in my head is a guy named Big Boy from 18th Street. This was a big ass Hispanic dude, man. This cat had to be every bit of 6'7", 6'8", and he used to have his coveralls on. And they used to be at the arcade downtown LA when we'd get off the bus and we'd go to the movie theater, and we'd walk about 5 or 6 of us Carver Parks. We'd walk by them, and it'd be like 15, 16, 18th Streets. And Big Boy used to always tell me, "What's up, little dog?" Like, "What's up, man?" It was no trip. And 18th Streets, we used to call them the Rainbow Gang because they had blacks, Asians, Samoans, whatever you can name. 18th Streets had them.
What changed?
La Emmy made them purge their ranks when they decided to declare war on people of color other than themselves. And that's just what it was, man, Because I'm not gonna bust some cats out, but I know a couple of cats from Gray Street.
Yeah, I'm gonna go look that up, Josh Norris. That's a great comment. That's a great piece of history right there.
You know what did it say? I can't see it, Mel. Read it to me.
Damon Yap Gaspar Yaga, a black slave, helped them get their freedom in the Mexican slave revolt against the Spaniards.
Okay. And Estevanico, what did he do? He opened up the Southwest, New Mexico, Texas, parts of Cali, to the Spaniards too. And he was a brother. He was a black dude. So it's a lot. It's a lot of intermingling, man. And the deeper you go into Mexico, the darker people get. They become my complexion. You know. And like I said, it's not taking nothing from the Mexican. I don't have nothing against the Mexican, man. Hell, I used to look at Telemundo all the time, baby. You know what I'm saying? And who didn't look at Caliente? Shit, knock it off. But I'm just saying, it's just the distaste, man, that these guys put down. And like I said, I'm not taking nothing from no other county, but we have a different ball game in Los Angeles County. See, they didn't have in San Diego County or Kern County where they put on the internet a white T-shirt day, kill the brothers with white T-shirts. Shout out to the 60s and the hoodsters and so forth and everyone else that showed up on Crenshaw with white T-shirts and said, we out here, what's happening? And showed that force of brothers out there.
So what's different about San Diego and Los Angeles when it comes to the Hispanics out there? What's the difference?
Well, I think what the difference is, this is just my personal opinion, I can stand to be corrected, is that the Mexican gang member out there, parents as well as the Mexican gang member himself, he was more so oppressed by that European because the border was right there, and so the racial evidence and so forth rolled over to him from law enforcement agencies, what have not. So he had a different ball game from the ones in Los Angeles County. Because a lot of cats in Los Angeles County, you find a lot of essays that got the last name like Reynolds and stuff like that. That was because they white boys was hitting their mamas up in the Bull Heights and the Baldwin Parks and the Whittier parts of Whittier and stuff like that. As they were in San Diego, you didn't see that. So I think it was a thing of they grew up, like we were in the early 70s.
Be sure you guys press them likes, hit them thumbs up, man. Get them likes up. YouTube is a business. That Tigger video did 2.3 million views in 2 days. Joe Biden said very next day, compared Latinos to tacos, and none of them did anything, did any videos on that. You're right, they didn't. But the guy, I think the American Cholo guy, I think his whole problem was that how the women was behaving with the black guys in the video. I think that's where his problem came at. You know what I mean? He just didn't want to say that. So he looked for other things to kind of like put his point out there, but actually you could see that he was really projecting in a way that was leaning towards, because he talked about that. Why they got us looking all fat and out of shape, and they got the hyenas in there all fine and you know what I mean? Because that's what they do. The sisters and the hyenas, they all running to Miami, to DR, and Mexico. I mean, it's deception to me, because if you getting this stuff, that's not really who you are, and that's really not who you look like. You know what I'm saying? So you creating deception to make a man desire you or want you, but that's a whole nother story. We'll talk about that another time.
But you gotta keep you gotta keep it real, man. In the 80s, man, it'll never be money like the 80s money.
Shout out to Big Devil.
But in the 80s, man, when a low-level drug dealer can make $1,000 a day taking turns on his block at the high point of the 80s, they chased us because we were street all-stars. They chased us. They didn't chase they dudes. Because they dudes at that time, and I'm not saying this as a whole, I'm not stereotyping, but we used to have a saying: you could put any type of drug in front of Southern California Mexican gang member, and he gonna try it. That was the saying. You could put anything in front of him, and he gonna try it. Sad to say, now that's a whole now for the generation now. You can put anything in front of them, and they gonna try it. But at that stage, a lot of brothers, my age bracket was like, nah, we ain't gonna try that. But they would try it.
Right. You're right. We are indigenous to the world. We are globetrotters. We traveled the world. You know what I mean? And they even, I think he even was having a problem because he's saying we trying to claim their culture, saying we indigenous to this Americans. You know what I mean? And we've been so messed over as a people, man.
Columbus. Wait. He needs to learn some history then. In 325 AD, man Musa of the Mali Empire sent 325 ships over that never returned. Then when you go down to Chichen Itza to the Temple of the Warriors, you see brown and blacks battling whites with no clothing on because that's how the Norsemen fought. So we were already over here. When you go to the Olmecs, which is the land of the rubber trees, and you see these big old heads, the Olmec heads,
The
they have
Olmecs
yeah,
found both in Egypt and in Mexico.
no, they have
Ethiopia and Mexico.
They have Cushites, which is the word Ethiopian. The European word is Ethiopian, but they have Cushite helmets on with
Right.
corn. So don't tell me nothing, you culture bandit. Please don't tell a brother who learned as much as he could about your culture in order to teach his sons, who mothers are part of your culture. So my sons, I wouldn't have to say, go ask your mama, because they can come ask their father. So knock it off. Tell me what one read is on the Aztec calendar since you want to talk all that crap. I'll tell you what it is. One read on the Aztec calendar is 52 years. Don't come at me. Wrong man. Extremely wrong man. And have no bias towards the Mexican culture. Tell me, what is that?
Shout out to our dog.
See, I can go all day long on that. Tell me on the Mexican flag, what does that eagle represent with the snake in its mouth? That bird was flying around and flying around and flying around, and the Aztecs were nomads. And when that bird went down the swamps and picked up that snake, they saw that was land that they can go on, and that became the symbol of the Mexican flag because it was established in the North American continent, the Aztecs. But let's talk about an 87-year period of time how they went from 25 million to 3 million, and how
I don't like to bring this fact up, but there was an 18th Street, right? That put the life of a prominent young athlete in the West Adams area. He was at 18th Street, but when he was going to court, he used for expert testimony. He had Alex Alonso because he's actually earned a degree in USC as an expert in gang culture, right? He used him to testify on his behalf. I had a problem with that. Alex can do whatever he wanted to do. And you know what I mean? I don't dislike that brother or anything like that, but I thought that was one job I would have turned down. That's just me. I would have turned it down. I couldn't have been no expert testimony for the defense against a person that took another beating. I don't care, black or Mexican. I just wouldn't have done it. Me personally.
He didn't either. Not for hate.
It was truly a hate crime that occurred, and this guy was reaching for straws. He needed. Because a lot of times what happened in trial is the people that provide the most best expert testimony on their behalf to defend their argument, a lot of times sway the court and they come out with a judgment on their behalf. It's just all about dollar. It's all about who could tell the best lie and how well the jury buys that lie. If you got attorneys that's spending money and they bringing in this expert testimony and that expert testimony, and the prosecution is kind of lean with how much money they want to spend trying this case, usually a lot of times you can prevail, and even if you actually did the crime, you can prevail.
True. Money talks, BS walks. So who could tell the best.
How y'all feel about Joe Morgan? We discussed Joe Morgan. We knew Joe Morgan was Croatian. He was a full-blooded European. He actually had a direct connect to the AB, but he assimilated the AB, the European politics, into the MA, and that's where because let's be honest. Dividing up water fountains, benches, and sitting areas, and where you sit in the kitchen, that comes from white supremacy, bro.
Yeah.
That was never Mexican. That was never Chicano. That never was Hispanic. So that in itself clearly show you that they took up some white supremacist ideology and interjected into whatever they're moving in, because during Jim Crow, we all knew they had the black water fountain, the white water fountain, the black restaurant, the white restaurant. You understand? So that's what the information that testified against a woman where he killed her husband when he was 17. No, I didn't hear that, bro. No, the information that testified against a woman where he killed her husband when he was 17. Yeah.
I never heard that neither. But I'm not saying it's not true. I'm not saying it's true. I never heard that. Slammed them dudes. But anybody that's been in California Department of Corrections, the first thing a brother tells you, like if I was in a building and you came in there, Melly Mel, the first thing I say, this our telephone, This our water faucet. These are showers. These are tables. So it's like 1942, yeah, Mississippi. It's like 1922, Mississippi. It's like Jim Crow all over again. Because you can look over there, the Europeans in Southern California, South Side, the Hispanic gang member, they share everything together. You
But
know,
at the end of the day, what we want to do is create something for all the kids to be better than what they are. So now what we're seeing, and the MA and the Serangels are seeing this too. A lot of the young Mexican kids and black kids, they get along. They do things together. They in the hip hop. They bro. They use the N word and homie, and you know what I mean. And they doing like 4 or 5 different things. But what they're not doing is signing up to be an MA or a Southsider. They either going to the military, police academy, going to college, or they gay. Let's be honest about that. They belong to the LBGQ plus AI community.
yeah.
So that's where they're at. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to say that to be funny. There's a lot of black kids that participate in that as well, and they see things differently. Bright Dog was just telling me earlier, man, what is all these dudes with these purses? I say they're not purses, man.
Yeah, first man. First
I have a bag myself. 1940 man, food crib got their own tables, all that shut to. Well, no. What we saying, Jank, is that we didn't start that.
No.
We did not start that, bro. No matter how you want to frame that or whatever, that has nothing to do with 1942. But a lot of things, like I was just saying, a lot of them guys, they let the white supremacy infiltrate their structure.
You know, and one thing I do like about the kids I see today, man, I see it. Now, don't take this wrong. This is not glorification, but I do dig that I see Mexicans from that are Crips and Bloods, and when they go to jail, they stand on that. Because we had a Mexican from A-Trade Gangster named Mexican Tony, and boy, we had a lot of problems from the South Side. It's about Mexican Tony from A-Trade Gangster. But Mexican Tony stood on it. I'm from A-Trade Gangster, homie, and that's what it is. And then and that's just what it was. And so if I like the equal opportunity employment of the stupidity, of course, but I'm just saying, and a lot of Mexican guys stand on it when they go to prison, as before they wouldn't do that because of the pressure. And I like when I go by a park, it's a park in North Long Beach, I see young brothers and young Hispanic dudes on skateboards doing their thing at the skateboard park. I like that. I like what I saw the other night. I went to a venue to look at a rapper that's affiliated with Melly Mel, and you had Hispanics and black young dudes and white boys all in the same. It was weirdo stuff to me,
And
just
they still claiming they still claim that's what they do, man. In order to fit in, if they look the part, they're going to mark white on their application, bro.
whoa. Let me tell you something. I did the payroll in federal prison. There were 189 not white. No. What did they call them? They called them. They were marked as white, non-Hispanic white, or They said non-Hispanic white. That's how they put most of the Mexicans down. They put them down non-Hispanic white on the payroll in federal prison. And I used to be like, what the fuck is this? This is an essay. This is the raza. But they put down, it was either white or non-Hispanic white. And that's what they put them down. The Salvadorians, the Guatemalans, and things like that. They didn't consider them, they put them down as white, man. A lot of them were put down as white.
I believe that's why they changed the name to Hispanic, because Chicano was ethnic, you know. So Hispanic is, we don't know what that is. That's a mixture.
His Majesty Royal Spanish subjects. You Hispanic, baby. His Majesty Royal Spanish subjects. Because
Right, Dog, I don't want to hold you any longer. I know you got to get some more rest before you go into work, man. But I appreciate you coming in. We was able to tap in on this Charleston White guy, Charlatan White, and and all his shenanigans and buffoonery. The buffoonery is at all, in the words of a boy, say, Duke Jackson, The buffoonery is at an all-time high with this guy. You
And then
know.
I'll say this to them out there. I got to plug me. Man, come on and hit me with the 200 more, man.
What's up, folks?
To
What up,
Urban,
bro? Man, you guys be sure to, man, follow the Urban Real. Right out, tell them where to find you at, bro.
And I'm Urban Realness, man, hosted by OG Bride D, man. And like I often say, my haters, I really want my haters to subscribe to me so you can kill me in the comments as you think you are, but you're not killing me. And as I say, it's the hub and the dub and neighborhood love. 2 of them, baby. Compton, California. 2 of them, 2 C's. You know, 1 love, man. And for you cats out there in the audience, man, like I said, we don't have nothing against the Mexican culture, man, at all. You know, if you want to be real, man, in the 80s, everybody wanted a paisa for a best friend. So you miss me with having something against the Mexican culture, man. All right.
Shout out to the Mailroom Nation. Shout out to the Mailroom Goons. Shout out to everybody that came in, and shout out that listen. We appreciate all you guys. Here go a little something going out. You know.
Marlene, I love you.
Cali finest, baby.
Cali finest, baby.
Grind all the time. Music money. Got a dollar sign. Hub City. I'm a street nigga. Streets fuck with me. I'ma keep pushing products to the fans get me. It's guap off top. Diamond Cartier. That nigga wall won't give a broke bitch the time of day.
Shout out to the Mailroom Nation. Shout out to the Mailroom Goon. Shout out to everybody that came in and just, man, had a good time and enjoyed themselves. Dogman, Mayweather. Shout out to my man, Get 'em Jank, God's Property, Mr. Scott, MD, Josh, Corey Moore. Man, Fly Alcoholic, man. That's a heck of a name. MD, what's good? Pedro, what's good? Cali Boy, what's good with you? Asiatic Supreme, my guy, man. Shout out to y'all, man. I appreciate you all. God's Property, of course, and Miss Cynthia Nunn, Queen of Compton, Factual Truth, you in the house. Terrell, what's going on with your champ? Mike Davis, Big Devil, man, let's get it, man. Man, one more time, man. Let's get it. Let's get it.
Big Mill, the hood post, Scott Fontaine, what up? It's a jungle in the ghetto, so you better beware. It ain't nothing but gorillas, iron tigers, the best. Pro Mags, Zazas, killer for terrorists. Step foot up in this jungle, leaves out in the herds. Codons, Percocet, city girls, yes, sex, all eyes, no deaths, full of shells, candle wax, candle lit, Brody hit, gas, shotty shot back. Guess he knew it was real when he died, he ain't come back. Round here, snakes, we ain't gorilla, man, no win. Bro, face 10, gave him up, now he back to win, man. It's every day, on the floor, no other way. In the ghetto, better get you some cake, no birthday, no heart, no.
Shout out to the Mailroom Name once again. Mike Marks, go ahead and lock the door because we are gone, bro.